Hey up, I'm Joe Law, and this is YellowBelly Presents, the visual podcast where we invite industry leaders to share the stories, strategies and secrets behind their creative success. We are thrilled to have Ed Currie and Andy Coxon, the founders of AKT Deodorant. As successful West End performers, they've built a brand that's revolutionising personal care with natural and plastic-free deodorants. Since launching, AKT has sold hundreds of thousands of units, been featured in Vogue and GQ, while gaining celebrity fans like Cynthia Erivo and Andrew Scott. Balancing the demands of the stage with running a business is no small feat, but Ed and Andy are proving that's possible. We can't wait to hear all about their journey, challenges, and the impact that they're having in both the arts and wellness. I'd love to start, if I may, with a few of your inspirations in life, some of your creative inspirations. So we've got a few questions that we start with that we ask all of our lovely guests like you. Could you share with us a song, a film, and a live performance that has inspired you?
A live performance I can definitely start with.
Great, let's do that.
So I saw Matthew Bourne's Swan Lake, I think when I was 14.
Yeah.
But we had been studying it at school as well for dance GCSE. And that just, it made me go, I want to be a dancer. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
I was very academic at school, but that all kind of changed. And I was just like, I just want to dance.
I just want to dance.
And then everything kind of led to that point. Never been a swan, sadly. Did audition. But actually Matthew helped me through drama school, which is awesome.
Wow.
And we've been in talks with his dance company, haven't we, recently?
We just worked with New Adventures, gave them product for Swan Lake.
See, full circle.
And we're in talks with doing more with them.
Yeah.
That's amazing. In what sort of capacity, like sponsoring some of their shows or creating something with them? Or
most of the relationships start with gifting, making sure everyone in the building has it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But they have a new incentive with Green Adventures around being more sustainable as companies. So the relationship is beginning to hopefully flourish into more. Yeah. Can't really say much else because it's not been concreted yet, but the relationship is fully there. We love what they do. We all went to see Swan Lake the other day at Sadler's Wells just because we were working with them, and it just shows their brand, their visual is very much in line with what we do. So it felt like the perfect fit. So we want to hopefully take that further.
How do those collaborations happen? Do you approach them? Do they approach you? Is it kind of a mutual thing? Is it two parties who are inspired by what one another?
I think in that instance, they approached us, but that's because we've been supporting arts in various different ways over the years. Yeah. Like we've just sponsored a fashion show at London Fashion Week, and that came off the back of sponsoring a show last year. And so I think the arts industries are now aware, AKT are there to support. Yeah. And that's really what we want to do as a brand as well. It's, that's where we came from. We want to make sure that we're supporting the arts and really highlight that an arts education can lead on to really incredible things in your career. You don't always just have to be in the West End. That is not the make or break. And as we all know, the West End isn't always the best place to be. Yeah. But it just takes you on to different things. Even if you did that at school, like Max Rayner, who we just sponsored at Fashion Week, he used to do Amdram and like school shows, and that's taken him on to be one of the most amazing fashion designers. So yeah, it's mutual. We reach out to some people reach out to us, and we just explore if there's something that we can do to support. It's really fun.
The level of the inbounds that now come in as we are branching our wings into more areas has really tipped into a new realm.
So, ridiculous.
Yeah. But we also have a team, a lot of our, I was about to say co-stars then. That should be their names. Our colleagues and co-stars, if you like, are ex-performers or are still performers and work for us on a freelance basis. And our partnerships team are still actors now. Yeah. Two people that work for us that help us by outreaching, by pitching us out and getting unbelievable conversations happening. And it just goes to show, again, like Ed says, the skill set that we have as performers translates into these things. And they make shit happen.
We do.
Can we swear on this?
Yeah, of course you can.
Fuck.
Performers
Shit,
make
piss,
shit
fuck,
happen.
bugger. Woo! End of pod. We're peaked, baby. You mentioned a couple of things just there that is really close to your heart, and something we were chatting about just now off camera and microphone, that the main purpose of ACT and why you started it was to give back to the performance industry. It feels like ACT as a company, your roots are very much the arts and performance. And you were saying just then that you sponsored an up-and-coming designer last year at London Fashion Week and of this year. Could you talk a little bit about what you see ACT's mission as, something deeper than...
Yeah.
I suppose it didn't start that way. Obviously, we started making deodorant. I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But as it's gone on, and like we've had a lot of amazing success, and we're forecasting a lot of amazing success. And so really what we want to do is make sure that we're supporting the people that supported us at the beginning. Because right at the start, we gave samples out to everybody that was in a West End production at the time. They all amazingly posted about it on social media, and that gave us our first foray into the business world. We raised a lot of money, and a lot of the performing community actually contributed to that. And subsequently, we have, I think, over 1,000 performers who are investors in ACT, including some of your previous guests. And so it's just nice to be like, that community supported us. Let's give back in a way that we can. And we're doing it very small at the moment because, we're not quite at the massive success levels that we would like to be, but we're just starting to sow the seeds, working with different companies and charities and individuals. And eventually, we'd love to set up a bursary scheme to get people through drama schools. And there's loads that we want to do.
There's a lot. We would not be where we are without our theatre community. Fact. I think we sat down one day and I just said, we've got this product, we need to make something of it. Why don't we give it to everyone in the West End and just see how it goes? And we were both like, oh God, will they?
I was very reluctant. I was like, who's going to take two performers from the West End seriously making a deodorant? And actually our first brand, when we did that, didn't mention that at all. Like, it was very luxe and glamorous, and we didn't say that we were from performing. So I was nervous, but thank God we did.
We did it. And without them, we wouldn't be where we are. So we want to be able to give back because we know how hard it is being performers as well. There's extreme highs and extreme lows. And we want to also let people know that it's okay to change career. And that is a big... what's the word? There's a real sort
elephant in the room.
Yes. Yeah. Like, everyone is slogging towards the same thing, but there's always that little thing in the back of your head saying, I don't really want to do this anymore, but it's all I know. And we have learnt how to be businessmen. No one taught us. We didn't go to college to do a new degree afterwards. We just sat down and said, let's make this happen. I mean, don't get us wrong. We were very successful performers. Ed had chosen to stop performing when this was beginning. I was still performing, but because COVID came along, obviously everyone lost their jobs. I lost mine, but we luckily had ACT that was about to launch. It allowed us to then focus on it. And I went through a bit of a like, oh God, do I want to go back? Because I didn't stop through choice. I stopped because of circumstance. And I think that was a real struggle for me to deal with, because we talked about it before we came in the room about how drama school doesn't teach you how to be a human and how to have life. It teaches you how to do a triple pirouette and sing a top C, but doesn't teach you how to live life and go through the bits when you are not in work. And we want to champion, the creatives that are doing fucking great things, but also the mental health of people that need to see that support, that, oh my God, look what these guys have done. And we get a lot of people reach out to say, I've got an idea. Can you just, slightly spur me in the right direction? How the hell have you done what you've done? And all we can really say is this has been an extreme happy accident, but without our community and industry, we would not be here. I get a bit emotional about it, I'm not going to lie. I love it.
It's all right, babes.
I love it. I love our industry that we came from, and that's why it's fully ingrained in our brand.
And it's even in the staff in our co-stars.
Co-stars, I love it. It's a new one.
In our company, we often look for people that have had arts training.
Yeah.
Whether that's performing or in a different line, because we understand, as I think as performers, we will never go on stage not knowing our lines or not knowing our dance steps.
Yeah.
There is a sort of innate fear that we have to do a good job.
Yeah, yeah.
And that translates amazingly into corporate world. I am doing inverted commas for those that can't see.
Muggle life.
Into Muggle life. Because you just get it done. You go and figure it out. And it makes for incredible employees. All of our customer service team are performers.
Yeah.
And they are sensational. They understand how to communicate with people in a very clear, kind way, which often, we've had muggles in the past do it. I love this, muggles. And it's been one-word answers. And we're like, are you having a laugh?
Yeah,
You cannot do that. And then, like Andy said, some of our partnerships team are current actors and very successful current actors. But again, they know how to own a space. They know how to communicate on a very authentic level. People really love talking with them.
People.
Yeah.
You understand how to converse. We just met you. We're conversing like I've known you for years.
Yeah.
It's just our natural way of being as performers.
Yeah.
So, and those guys you spoke about in the partnerships team, yes, they're performing and successful actors, but they need a sideline.
100%.
And it's something we want to champion. If I could hire actors on our entire team, I would, because I want to give people that chance to. You have to have money to be an actor, let's be honest.
Yeah,
The most successful elite people are from rich backgrounds. And if you don't have that support, it's really hard. It's not impossible, but it's harder than having that support underneath you.
Even our finance director, she wasn't a performer, but she's got an arts education. She's got BA honours. She was a writer. And now she's a finance director.
Yeah.
But again, I think just being in the interview with her, we were like, you're cool.
Yeah.
You get it. You'll fit in really well.
Slightly different part of the world, but my day job, I'm a care worker. I look after a guy who's blind and he's autistic and an amazing pianist, but that's probably a story for another day. But all of our care team are from the arts.
Yeah.
Now, they're two worlds that you would never put together in the same way that your finance director is from the arts. All of your team in various aspects of business are from the arts, and all of our care team are from the arts. We've got trombone players and painters and actors and dancers. And the quality of care that Nick, who I look after, gets, and the quality of service that your customers get from people with a background in the arts is amazing. And I feel like performers in general are quite a self-deprecating bunch. We might be confident on the outside, but I think on the inside we're like, what am I doing? We might not think we have much skill, but we've got a lot of these skills are eminently transferable in a way that perhaps we don't necessarily think they are.
Well, I'm not surprised that we feel that way. When you look at the industry, yes, we have this confidence. We're taught to, step into a room and audition our socks off. But then really, like, we're kind of at the bottom of the ladder. When you're in a show, you don't have much say and there's not much security in your employment. You get 2 weeks notice and then you've got no job again.
Yeah.
And then you look at the government as well, and you see how they haven't really been supporting the arts. You remember that advert in COVID when it was a ballet dancer having to retrain?
Get a proper job.
Retrain in cyber.
Like, it was just so upsetting to see that the government don't see the worth in people that have trained in the arts. I think us in this room understand that maybe as a performer, your career it has a lifetime, a lifespan. As a dancer in particular, you hit 30, your body starts to change and it gets more painful to dance. And so, you get to that point and you often need to retrain and go and do something else. I don't understand why the government doesn't see that career in that first instance leads you on to really incredible things.
Sets you up.
And there are so many people in top careers contributing a lot to the economy who have an arts background. And I think that's our mission, is to be like, come on now. People in the arts do great things and contribute a lot.
Yeah. And to switch that mindset of to be honest, I think the country's got an odd mindset towards performers. And I'm going to dive into reality TV that has ruined that slightly, because now musicals have no longer become like musicals. They are musicals.
Yeah, yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, you're in musicals. And you're like, no. I mean, there's very few musicals that have this in now.
Yeah, yeah.
But because most musicals have to have a celebrity in them from a reality TV show, it's been slightly watered down and dampened, and the talent gets discarded because, no offense to those reality stars, they've got to work and the jobs come in their way. It's absolutely up to them. But when those big shows do come around, like, for example, something like Guys and Dolls at the Bridge Theatre was absolutely mind-blowing, sensational, full of loads of my friends, the top-tier talent of our industry, not a celebrity in it. Well, there was Daniel, what's his name?
He was great.
But he was fantastic. Exactly. And he was perfectly fitted for the role. I didn't go to see him. I went to see the show. And it just goes to show that those beautiful pieces of creative art aren't reaching the everyday person, because the country's mindset is going towards Mamma Mia for a hen do. I need to go and see the latest winner of X Factor in X, Y, and Z because I'm a fan from Love Island or whatever, which is fine. We know producers need to sell tickets, but the craftsmanship and the talent has sort of, it's no longer as what's the word, revered, and everyone's a judge now, thanks to X Factor. Thanks to going, they won't get through, or they were flat. Even my mum's like, God, why have they got so much vibrato? And you're like, what the fuck do you know about vibrato? Or she'll go, why is she wobbling? Why is she wobbling that bit? Or, do you know what I mean? Just like certain things that you go, oh, you're missing the point. And it's very different in America, I think, for example, with Broadway. It makes celebrities over there. And like Cynthia Erivo is an amazing example. I think she's huge in America. Over here, we know who she is thanks to Wicked, but even before then, it was still a struggle, I think, for her to be commercially known and loved for her unbelievable talent. In America, loved.
I think it's a cultural thing slightly in Britain. So I was fortunate enough, I was in a very middle-of-the-road band, but we did a European tour. We played about 40 gigs in Europe.
Wow.
Every country we went to, when you get chatting to people in a restaurant or a bar or something, and they're like, oh, what are you doing in Belgium or Luxembourg or Italy or wherever you were at the time? And you say, oh, I'm a musician, I'm in a band, we've got a gig in Vienna tonight. And the like reverence on their face was like, oh, wow, you're a musician. We even got a lot of like, thank you for coming here.
Wow.
Thank you for coming here and playing. And in my head, I'm like, oh, music's rubbish. I wouldn't thank us for that. In Britain, you go and play a gig. You don't get paid. You don't even get a drink put behind at the bar. If you tell your family members, that you're in the arts, one of the first things they say is, well, have you thought about getting a proper job first?
It is cultural.
I think there's a mixture between the top-down nature of the way successive governments have treated the arts as an afterthought, even though it's punched way above its weight economically, culturally, emotionally, spiritually for years, and something that is bottom-up, i.e. in the British culture psyche that, you're right, perhaps doesn't revere. I don't expect people to go, oh, wow, you're like... People should have that response to nurses and teachers and things, but it's a craft and it deserves respect, and I completely agree with that.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, since we've now launched in the US, and we see such a stark difference in how people react to our story. Like if I'm in a bar in America and I tell them that we've got this deodorant company and, you know, Oprah's given us the best deodorant award and Cynthia Erivo wears it and we won all these awards, they are so enamored.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my God, because it's the American dream, really.
Where can I buy it? I need to get it now. Let me try it. It's like this. I want to know. I want to know.
They're so like into it. They're like, you guys have built something from nothing. It's incredible what you're doing. Terrible accent. Oh my God.
It's been a while.
Thank God you were never an actor.
But I've had very different experiences in the UK if I'm at a bar and I've told people what I'm doing. And their first question is, oh, so why should I buy your deodorant? Like, what makes it better?
Yeah.
I'm like, just like, I'm fine. Like, the business is doing really well. I don't need to prove to you how well I'm doing. And I think that is just it's a big cultural difference. And I wish it wasn't, but I'm not surprised because of the way the arts have been treated. And
our brains want to start thinking about how can we shift that slightly.
Yeah.
We are a small company.
Yeah.
But I think we've got a mighty mind behind us. And if there's a way of switching people's perception, I even start to think about, why don't we have on This Morning, for example, sometimes you have a segment and you'll have Jersey boys performing in the streets outside White City.
Yeah, they're in the studio.
Yeah, and it's like either mind, it just looks a bit naff and you're like, great, well, there's Jersey boys and you just ruined it for the rest of the country because now they think, oh, there's another musical.
Yeah.
Whereas in America, you're on Good Morning America and you get interviewed like this. You're the lead of a new show on Broadway and you get interviewed and you become a personality. You're personally branding. It's publicizing the people, not just the show. So why over here can't we have a segment on This Morning that's about this brand new show in the West End that is not someone from Love Island? It is up and coming actors that have stories, and it would make the most interesting segments.
Yeah.
To me, I'm like, those little tweaks just start to put it back into the minds of millions of people in the capacity of revering talent, because people are getting sick of seeing the same drivel. That's why it's starting to. Producers are like, why aren't we selling tickets?
What ways does that change? How can that change where we start to encourage talent and craft and people who've, you know, worked really hard honing this skill? How does that change? How do we become more like the Americas or the continental Europes?
There's two ways. One is how it is viewed in terms of, let's be real, if we were paid better as actors in jobs, you would give more to the job.
100%.
So producers turn around and they're like, why is that person taking more time off? And you're like, because their mental health's fucked.
Yeah.
Or they can't live a life and they're having to do 3 other jobs.
Yeah.
Whereas if you are paid a Broadway wage, you don't have other jobs. They aren't at the moment because the economy is a bit rough. But if you look after the people in the job, they will give more than you even expect. And to me, I think that will show to the audience, because if you go to a Saturday matinee, I can guarantee you'll spot 5 people that don't want to be there on stage. Whereas if they are all looked after, thrilled with their lives, like know what's happening, where they're going for lunch, and they're not having to think about, oh God, this is happening, drama. The show itself becomes an entity of like joy.
Yeah.
And that translates to an audience without talent, without material. Just watching people have fun on stage is the thing why people go to the theatre. Not necessarily just the material, because the material needs everything else underneath. And I think when you see shows that's tired, that's when people go, a musical. Whereas if you go to a show like Guys and Dolls, that was exciting. There was nowhere to hide. It was sorry. It was new. My hands, I'm very handsy. It was new. It was visual. It took you on a fucking journey around the room, for God's sake. That is exciting. I've gone off on a full tangent.
I think
love it,
to that point, though, it's worth noting for the dear listeners that maybe don't know about the West End community and maybe do think, oh, it's very glamorous and fantastic. I would say nearly everybody that's in a West End show has a second job because they cannot afford to live on a West End wage, which might be quite shocking to you all.
That's how this started.
I would also say that most West End performers do not live in London because they can't afford to live in London. They go and live in Leighton Buzzard. And
Margate.
Margate.
Yeah.
They have to commute in. So again, in London, there's none of that sort of art scene anymore. In Soho, it's completely dead. Freedom even is kind of disappeared because people aren't hanging out in London because they've got to get their last train after the show. And that's sad.
Yeah.
Why has it become that? I've just learned that Andy's boyfriend is on way less of a wage than what we were on 10 years ago in the West End.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
because because you're paid by category size. So I'm not going to name shows because I think that's not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Maybe it is, but he went from a very big commercial show to another commercial show that was in a smaller theatre, and it was almost a 60% pay cut.
60%.
But he's got 12 years experience. He's probably one of the hardest working people in a company. He's never stopped working, and it's like you just have to deal with that because it's a category C theatre.
Yeah.
Even though that show is the most expensive ticket in town right now. So the producers are making the money, but where's that? Why is that not looking after the people that are coming to watch you? Without those people on stage, you don't have a show.
Yeah. Oh God, we've gone very political and a bit
Sorry.
sad.
No, I like it. No, I like it because maybe I just don't listen to enough stuff, but I very rarely hear these conversations being had, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I don't know if people
Well, they're not. That's the thing. They're not talked about.
Are people afraid to like not get booked for the next job if they speak like this?
People are scared of
is
being
that
blacklisted. People are scared of... Because it's true, we're all replaceable. All actors are replaceable.
Speak for yourself, love.
But unless you've got that celebrity status, you are replaceable.
Yeah.
Like, there's 20 people that can do your job, and we know that, and that is always going to be in the back of your mind. Unless you've got that celebrity status, you are replaceable.
Yeah.
Like, there's 20 people that can do your job, and we know that, and that is always going to be in the back of your mind. Oh, there's no reason why you wouldn't have it and be loved for many more jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where my brain went on that, but
I think
you mentioned before that most actors, performers have a day job, even while they're in like a big West End show.
Yeah.
When I was performing, very, very, very long time ago now, I always, every time I had another shift at a day job that paid fuck all, and I was like, God, why am I here again? Every time I contemplated training to do something that I found quite interesting to go alongside acting. For me, that was something like, oh, shall I go to school and do a degree? Or I quite fancy doing something like nursing, or a load of different ideas. I didn't go through with any of it because it kind of felt like giving up, or it felt like there was some kind of stigma around doing something else, even though we're all doing those shit day jobs anyway.
Yeah.
Was that stigma only in my mind, or does it exist? What are your experiences of coming from that performing background and then creating act to go alongside that?
There's a big stigma around it because none of us have the luxury. I say none of us. Most people don't have the luxury of sitting and waiting for the next job.
Yeah.
90% of being an actor is being out of work. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Unless you're in a year contract, but then straight after that, you're out of work.
Yeah.
So it comes in waves. But the dream would be that you work on your craft when you're not in work.
Yeah.
But you can't afford to go to class and do your gym and have singing lessons or acting classes unless you're working.
Yeah.
And when you're in a show, 8 shows a week, you don't have the time to go to classes and do all of this stuff. And it's a vicious cycle unless you've got that extra income. I think the jobs that you can get alongside, you tend to want them to be a bit passive.
Yeah.
So you don't care about them. But then those jobs that you have to take become your life for a second.
Yeah.
And it's all encompassing, like front of house jobs.
Yeah.
I was doing it for nearly a year before I got my first job, and it became, God, this is a chapter of my life.
Yeah.
I'm front of house. I think I just applied to become a manager at the theatre at the time before I got my first gig, and was like, I'm going to be here forever.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be there, but luckily I was enjoying it with the people. Some of the jobs that you have to get to survive as an actor aren't what you want to do. So how are you meant to enjoy that?
Mm-hmm.
But I think the stigma of, oh, you're not working. You're not in a job.
Yeah.
Oh, you're working in a coffee shop.
What are you doing at the moment? And it's like, I'm a delivery driver at the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
Which you did.
Yeah, I did. After a chorus line, that was after Beautiful it was.
Yes.
I was like, I need some money. Yeah. Anything. So I was a delivery driver. It's interesting we're talking about this. I live in Germany now.
Yeah.
And it's very different there. You get paid a lot of money in performing in Germany. And
Do
then
you?
it's a lot, way more than in the UK. And then when you're out of work, you get 60% of your wage paid for by the government.
Wow.
Because they know that it's difficult. And
similar in France as well.
They think that, okay, well, if you're not dedicated to your craft, then you're just going to get lost in the workforce. You're going to go and have to do another job, and you're not going to be able to contribute again. You're not going to be able to afford to audition and do your next gig. So they give you money to tide you over, but they tax you more as a performer in Germany. So that when you come to the end of your career as a performer, they understand that, you're going to hit 30, 35 and you're probably going to want to retrain, and they give all of that tax back to you. And they say, this is your money to go and retrain if you want to do whatever you need to do. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just such a different mindset.
Sounds like a fairy tale.
It does. Imagine that in the UK.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you'll love this. The budget for the arts in Berlin is the same as the whole of the UK.
Whoa.
Yeah. Every city in Germany has like state theatre. Like every city, every town has its own theatre, and it's all subsidised by the state because they understand people want to go to the theatre. They want to enjoy it. Yeah. Keeps people happy.
So where did you guys first meet?
That was on Beautiful, the Carole King musical. End of 2014, and we did the show throughout 2015.
What was the like
moment?
The kernel of the idea that led to act?
He always fucking smelt.
Yeah.
Were you a smelly bastard?
I was a smelly bastard.
Yeah. But you knew this.
Yeah.
Going into the show.
I remember being in a chorus line, and I was playing Bobby, and Bobby wears this thick woolen jumper.
I mean,
it's
anyone's going to smell in one of them, aren't they, under the old lights and a jumper?
Everyone else in that show is in a leotard. Bobby in a thick woolen jumper.
Dressed
and
for winter.
A silk scarf, which I was like, I'm not wearing this. I cannot survive. Silk, which just traps in heat. And my co-star at the time, she turned to me after the big dance number, Montage 4, and she was like, Ed, you fucking stink.
On stage.
And I was like, oh, it's the jumper.
It's not me.
And I just tried everything. I tried like Perspirex, which stains your clothes and burns your armpits. I tried natural stuff, which just didn't work. And I just became exasperated. And we were living together at the time. And I was throwing away T-shirts every few weeks because that ingrained smell that you just can't get rid of. And so I was like, I'm going to figure it out. If they can put a man on the moon, I can surely figure out how to make a deodorant that works.
Yeah, yeah.
But it wasn't a sideline job. This was literally just a little hobby, wasn't it?
Yeah. I just started making it in the kitchen. I found a very simple recipe online. Gave me a huge rash after I first made it.
But you didn't smell.
But I didn't smell as much as normal. And it just kind of spurred something in me. I was like, I'm gonna figure this out. So I did loads of research online, bought more ingredients in, test tubes, pans.
It was like Breaking Bad in our kitchen.
Honestly,
minus the crack, hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of powders.
You found that first pan the other day, didn't you?
I did. I brought it into the office. I was like, I found the
pan. There's your next sideline, cracked.
Cracked. For those really out of work.
And then AKT in the middle.
Yeah.
And when did you start? So it was your little hobby at first. When did you guys start working on it together?
Well, I'd stopped performing after...
I was a test subject.
Yeah.
Were you?
So
did you come out in the rashes as well?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we weren't living together in the beginning. You were still making it.
Yeah.
But I was given formulas, and they'd separate in my bathroom because it was warm, and like he was learning how to put them in the fridge to solidify the formula, and like different ways of... That's a bit oily. It's stained my clothes.
You make it sound very simple. Put it in the fridge, but there was a whole level. Like you have to add ingredients at certain temperatures.
Yeah.
It is the hardest formulation all 3 of our factories have ever made. That's what they've told us. They're like, this is so hard to make. And it's because of the temperature.
Each ingredient needs to be treated with a different temperature to work properly.
Steps of the manufacturing process so that it doesn't crystallize or separate, or adding the fragrance at the right point will... Obviously, it needs to mix through, otherwise you end up with
burning it off.
Yeah, with heavier powders would just sit at the bottom, and then
and then you've got to cool it dramatically after it's all mixed. But
it's liquid form to begin with.
Yeah.
I learnt this over the
all
course
by
of,
yourself through trial and error.
Yeah, over 3 years.
It probably would have taken 6 months if we'd have known what we were doing, but 3 years.
It was 3 years, every week making a new formulation and testing it on Andy, and then we tested it on our family, and then we tested it with a few like select friends.
I was in shows at the time, and we gave it to cast members in there just to be like, try that, what do you think?
Yeah.
And people would be like, this is amazing.
I'd write down the feedback. I'd write down like my own personal feedback, like, oh, it felt a bit grainy, or and then people started buying it from us. They were like, that weird deodorant you made. Hey, how the hell did you do it? And can I buy some? Because it was working better than anything else they'd used. And, as very poor performers, we were like, yes, you please. Can.
At the point that I really became involved was Ed was, like you said, a delivery driver. You were also Billy Piper's PA.
I was.
Yes, but you had
random sideline.
Billy's Piper.
Billy Piper. By this point, you'd nailed the formula, and people were regularly buying it off us, and we were probably making £200 a month or something, just filling tins in the kitchen, like handing them out literally like a.
You like some deodorant, kid?
Yeah, literally. And
do you like some patchouli?
But I was watching him slowly sort of lose himself in. What do I do? He's doing Deliveroo. You met with an interior designer because you didn't know if that's what you wanted to do next. You didn't know what career path to do.
Yeah.
I was dabbling in photography at the time, and I said, this is great. Why don't we try and brand it? I'll photograph it in some aspect, and we learn how to sell it on Etsy or something like that, or just make this into something so we've got a bit of money so we can go and live life.
Yeah.
So we branded it, a very different brand to what it is now. We worked on an entire brand, very different. And you need money to launch a business. We'd met, went to see a show in Stratford at Shakespeare's Globe.
Stratford upon Avon.
Stratford upon Avon.
Clarify.
Yes, not the Westfield. And Caroline Quentin was in it, and her husband is a cosmetic formulator.
Wow.
And my friend was in the show with Caroline, and we got introduced to Sam Farmer, who has his own range as well. And he got chatting to you in the pub after the show and was like, yeah, I've got this deodorant. And Sam was like, great, let's do this. We'll introduce you to this person, and we'll get it going. And it literally just spurred this way of speaking to people that compared to the performance industry, the beauty world, everyone connects you to everyone and is willing to help. So from that point on, we were given a mentor. We were then having regular meetings, and it was like, yeah, you guys just need to raise about 12 grand to get this regulated, manufactured, and Bob's your uncle, off you can go. So we thought, let's use the community and do a Kickstarter. And that's when we gave everyone a sample. We asked them to post about it on the same day.
Yeah.
The campaign went live on that day, and we hit our target of 12 grand within 1 hour. Then 30 days later, at the end of the campaign, we'd raised 50 grand and had 3,000 orders. And suddenly we were like, oh, we were literally planning on just making this at home. We were going to turn the spare room into a fulfillment center and sell it on Etsy. But you can't make 3,000 orders in a kitchen. And so it became, right, next step then, let's find a factory. Let's get it fully regulated. With it. We had to learn about EU standards and all of this stuff that so out of our wheelhouse. But
even how to set up a company, learning about your profit margins and
taxes, let alone freelance taxes. There's business taxes and all of that stuff. But
we just learned it. We were very dedicated to just figuring it out. So we'd get the books, we'd look at YouTube videos, we'd set it up. We made the website ourselves, which is still the website that we have today.
Same one.
You made that website yourself?
Yes.
Yeah. Obviously, it's had a lot of iterations.
Some customizations, but the bones of it is just very much us sat there going, let's put that there.
all of the spreadsheets, all of the finances I did the supply chain. Andy did all the marketing and branding. We created the email flows, like, oh, we noticed you had something in your basket. Do you want to check out? And all of those things are very much still in place, but they've just been worked on a lot more now that we've got a bigger team.
Experts to actually know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was the joy of it. And it's still the joy, really, is the learning. Like, we just enjoy figuring it out and learning. But then COVID came along, didn't it?
Yeah.
That
Yay!
Yeah. One of the things we love talking about, by the way, is the ins and outs of this, because I feel like you see these interviews and these podcast interviews, same thing, of how someone goes from, oh yeah, I had this idea, now it's this. You miss that whole middle bit.
Completely.
So we love to share every detail.
Yeah.
So just drive us through if we're
Have we got another hour?
No.
Yeah.
But I think those technical aspects are so vital.
Yes.
You're absolutely bang on. People kind of, when they're interviewed about their successes in life, they kind of talk about them in like broad brushstrokes or vague terminologies. But we want to help people make this next step in their lives.
Yeah. It's amazing.
There might be viewers and listeners right now who've got that idea but just don't know what their next step might be. So it's important to talk about branding and different iterations of your product and corporation tax and websites and all these things.
We need 5 episodes with you if we're going into corporation tax.
Yeah, that's what VAT is.
Yes. But it's what we didn't have when we were learning how to do the business thing.
Yeah.
There was a couple of YouTube videos, we got books, we had a few podcasts that we'd lent on, but we still had a lot of gaps, which meant networking and meeting people and being introduced. But that's why we're willing to share every aspect, because I think it's so important.
So we got to the part where you created a Kickstarter and you got 50. You wanted 12 grand, you got 50 within a week, was it?
A month.
A month. The month was the whole campaign.
So what did your Kickstarter supporters get in return for supporting you? Is it product or is it?
They get product. So you basically are buying, did you call it gifts? Rewards. You get a reward for your pledge.
Yeah.
So it's not investing, but you get something back for putting your money in, and it allows companies like ours to go and then get it made.
Yeah.
So there's no expectancy of getting it a week later.
Yeah.
So it allowed us time. We just had to keep updating them.
And it took us a good year because we had a big problem in the middle of that, in that we had a lawyer's letter through the door on the day that we placed an order for 10,000 tins. Like, we'd spent the money. And then a letter came through the door, and it was like, you've got a trademark clash. Somebody has trademarked your name. You have to stop what you're doing. You have to declare how much money you've made.
Bear in mind, we'd done this Kickstarter for these kinds of things to be able to afford to get it trademarked.
Oh, no.
That was a big error. We should have done that first. Actually, well,
but we couldn't.
Because now we've got a great name.
Yes. I'm glad we didn't. It's better.
So you had another name at that point?
Yes. Yeah. It's the best thing that could happen to the brand.
Yeah. And we were kind of creatively exhausted because we'd branded this thing, and we were like, instead of fighting this trademark, which would cost a lot of money, and we just wouldn't have won the case, we were like, let's rebrand. So we found a design agency that we were quite keen to work with because we'd seen their stuff. A lot of other brand agencies had just been like, no, you're good. But these guys were like, let's have a conversation, see what we can do. And we told them our story about being performers, etc. And they were like, this is possibly the best founding story of a product that we've ever heard. Most brands have to manufacture what their story is.
Bear in mind, our story wasn't part of the previous brand.
Yeah.
We shied away from theatre completely.
Yeah. And your performers, the stories are your bread and butter.
Yeah.
And telling them is what you do.
But again, we were learning that. We didn't know that was required of a brand. That's how you sell, is you get people drawn in by your story, and the authenticity is what people buy into.
100%.
We didn't know that until now.
Yeah. And so we started working with them, and we were like, we need a new name. Can you help us? And I remember that first presentation, and they went through a few different names, and we were like, oh God, are we working with the right people here? This is awful. And then they clicked the next slide, and ACT came on the screen, AKT. And we both
You
did.
both went,
Perfect unison, gay gasp. And
that's it.
we were like, oh my God,
He's been
how
staring
would
us
we...
in the face all the time.
Yeah. I mean, that's incredible. And then they showed us, once we decided, act, definitely, of course.
Yeah.
Then they started looking more into the theatre world. And so they started looking at theatre billboards. And that's the way all of our typography is laid out. It's those old marquees where they used to hang the individual letters on, now showing Judy Garland. And that's how all of our typography is laid out in our brand.
Yeah.
Even our tagline is born to perform, because the product was. Our fragrances are named after scenes. So it says SEO1 EXT Orange Grove. Scene 1, exterior, Orange Grove, how you'd read it in a script.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything from that point, it was just like, yes, we can actually be like authentic to ourselves. We know all this stuff. All of the scene descriptions are how you'd read it at the beginning of a script. And
but
it's
doing
just
it in a
been
premium manner. We didn't want it to be a brand for theatre people.
Yeah.
We just wanted it to be, if you know, you know.
Yeah.
Like, be cheeky about it. We wanted us in that brand, and it's very clever, cheeky, bold, vibrant, without being too theatrical, so that it distances people.
Yeah.
And they peppered it very cleverly.
One thing that writers always get told is write what you know.
Yeah.
And it sounds exactly the same to what you guys did with your business. When you started, you were, like you say, not focusing on narrative, or other businesses were having to manufacture a story, but yours eventually, after a few iterations, became rooted in what you know and who you were and what your background is and where you're from.
Yeah.
And that feels like the strength of your company today.
100%.
It has deep roots.
Definitely.
Yeah. There's so much joy in it. Like, even the fact that me and Andy are doing this interview, we are the faces of a deodorant brand. Isn't that a bit weird?
How many of those do you know?
But it's because, when we started, we were documenting the story, we were showing up on Instagram, and that's what resonated with the followers. That's what people wanted to see more of. And so, we are the face of the brand now.
Yeah. Something that was really difficult to balance was, we've created a premium looking brand.
Yeah.
Everyone wears deodorant, so why does it need to be premium? It was more the visual that we'd made premium, as well as a high performing product. But to make it accessible, and I don't want to use the term high street because that's not what I mean, but when you are commercially in people, what's the word I'm looking for? Like accessible and mass. This is a very easy, normal conversation that anyone can connect with.
Yeah.
So having the balance of sharing this without being like in an Annie Leibovitz shoot every time we're doing content. It's a bit of Andy just editing on CapCut on his phone and a reel of us doing stupid things. That is the balance we've had to find. So we can
100%.
stay premium, still be in Vogue and Harper's Bazaar, but have Ed and Andy in there because we're real people.
Yeah. One of the kind of through lines throughout your guys' story seems to be the constant surmounting of obstacles that were put in your way.
We're very tired.
So many.
Because I think that when many of us are presented with obstacles, our immediate response is to go, and like run away from it because they're difficult to deal with, and they might be kind of bringing up things that we haven't dealt with or processed yet within ourselves. But it started with, you had a problem, your friend told you something quite personal that, like, look,
you stink.
You're smelling a bit
rude.
You could have gone within yourself, but you didn't. You it's fight or flight. You could have run and you didn't. You thought, you were like, okay, how do we solve this? And the next obstacles put in your way were, you had to change your name because of potential copyright infringement, and you had to figure out how to take it from your kitchen to... So all these obstacles, and to get over an obstacle, by its nature, you have to grow. So all these small growths that you've had the opportunity to go through to build to what you've got today, I think will resonate to a lot of people, that they go, okay, this is shit, or this is difficult, but we're going to be better, stronger, more clued up on the other side of this?
I really liken it to being in a rehearsal space.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in rehearsal, as an actor, you're not just there to read your lines. You're constantly thinking about the obstacles and problems that are happening around you.
Yeah.
So you're thinking, okay, well, I need this prop for the next scene. So I need to make sure it's set in stage left because I'm going to be entering from stage left. I can't exit there because there's a huge piece of set coming on from that. Ooh, my quick change. I need to make sure that my clothes are set there because I've got to do a quick change straight after this. You're never just thinking in the moment. You're always thinking really expansively about the problems and things that happen around you. And also, you just get over it. You drop a prop on stage, somebody picks it up, you make it organic in the scene, you feel really proud of yourself. I picked up the prop. And it's very much like what it is in business. These obstacles and problems present themselves, and sometimes you've got the luxury of foreseeing that that problem's going to emerge and you quickly divert. Sometimes it hits you straight in the face, but because you're on stage and everybody's watching you, you just get on with it.
Yeah.
It circles back to the beginning conversation around the skill set that actors have.
Yeah.
And I think the number one thing is resilience. You are dealt with negativity all the time.
Yeah, it's
rejection.
Not an easy life.
9 out of 10 auditions are probably, I think the stats probably bigger.
Not having money, you got to make money somehow.
Yeah.
You're always figuring it out and just getting over it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why we've got the tenacity to crack on with the business.
I think there will be a lot of performers out there watching and listening to this that might not think they have any transferable skills for other.
God, you do.
You do.
You do. You've mentioned resilience as one. What other transferable skills do you think that actors and performers have to bring to business?
Problem solving.
Yeah.
You are innately a problem solver because of what I've just said about always thinking ahead.
Even if you've chosen to stop being an actor because it's not working out for you, you've solved a problem there.
Yeah.
Like that, you might have stopped performing. Don't say you've given up.
No.
You made a choice to change.
Yeah. You've chosen to do something else.
That's problem solving. You are a problem solver.
Yeah. What else? Confidence.
Confidence. Going into a room of anybody, you will just suddenly find that you're able to talk to everyone, and you'll speak to someone, and you're like, why is this person being weird? They're not being weird. They just don't have that social skill that we have picked up because we meet new cast members every 3 months or so.
Yeah.
And you're just used to meeting.
You get jobs because you're a fun person to work with. It's not always based on your talent.
Yeah.
I would also say your understanding that you've got to always work on your craft. You're also not going to get a job if you're not talented. And so you have to work and make sure that you're doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
It's all of those things. You might not think that I don't know how to use a spreadsheet. I'd never looked at a spreadsheet in my life before this, but because of those skills, I was like, well, I'm going to figure it out. Can't be that hard. You know, Joe down the road does it for a living. If he can do it, I can do it.
100%.
I think one of the main things as well is not willing to look stupid. You're going to work hard to make sure you're prepared to do that job. We've all been on gigs and things when you've not quite had enough time to rehearse, but you've just got by on the skin of your teeth.
Yeah.
You did everything you possibly could to get those lyrics in and those steps.
And you still
you would never just go, I don't know it, so we'll just cut that.
Yeah.
That's not possible. So I think confidence, resilience. What did I just say?
Tenacity,
discipline.
And wanting to make a good product of whatever you are offering. You are wanting to present your best self as much as you can, even if you're broken, you haven't had time to prepare it. If you only got to the 60% level that you thought, you still got to that point, and that was circumstantial.
I think it's really important for performers out there right now to hear you are so skilled. You've got unlimited amounts of potential within you.
Yeah.
You can do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
just try not to listen to the things that will knock you down. For example, if your grandma says to you, have you tried to be on EastEnders?
Punch her in the gut.
You can laugh, laugh it off. Just laugh it off. It's really easy to sit and say that now because I've been in that scenario. Have you thought about Coronation Street? No, I haven't, And those things eat away at you. When you are not in a job, you're at your most vulnerable. That's another thing. We are emotional people. We have a range of emotions that most people don't, because you can feel like crap and feel like the fucking god.
Yeah.
Depending on where you're at in your career. And it's annoying that that's what navigate your feelings. But if you listen to too much outside noise, it will peck away at your own talents. Not peck away at it, it's always going to be there, but it just shrinks it and hides it away. Yeah. And I think we are, as creatives, I'm using the word creatives, not just performers. This is anyone backstage, any designers, wardrobe, everybody. They are full of this exciting creative juice. You are not the norm. And that needs to be celebrated.
It does.
And it won't be celebrated by everybody. That's also fine. They just won't get it. You have to learn Mel Robbins' new book called Let Them.
Yeah.
And I think I don't even need to read it without knowing what that's about. Just let them think that. Mm-hmm. Let them think that. You can just go, yeah, I have thought about EastEnders. Thank you. And move on. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then go away and do your thing. And it's so hard to say because I wish I could tell myself that 5-6 years ago. Mm.
If you were to give one piece of advice or a couple of bits of advice to performers out there who wanted to start their own business right now in 2025, mm-hmm. What would that be?
I always say, if you lean forward, your legs will follow to stop you falling over. You have to start. Yeah. You have to start doing it, whether that's a prototype, which is what I did in the kitchen, or whether that's, if you're a headshot photographer, just getting a few friends together, doing headshots. If you want to be a tour guide, go and make that first tour and invite your friends and get feedback. But you have to start. Otherwise, nothing happens.
Yeah.
It's quite simple.
So watching these videos of people giving advice, it's so easy to sit here and say this stuff because we've been through it. It's very hard to listen to it when you're in that dark place and just go, yeah, but you're through it.
Yeah.
We were at that point.
Yeah.
And I can't even, I can take ourselves back to that scenario in the lounge going, shall we? Yeah. Okay. And it is just doing it. Just do it. And
it's not easy, but nothing good comes easy.
Yeah.
Anything worth doing is not easy. And don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yes.
In any scenario, even if it means dropping someone a message on LinkedIn, they might not see it, but do it to 10 people. One person might see it. Or DMing anyone, just people that you think are the people you want to know. Go and network in some way. Networking is what we're skilled at as performers. It's a gross word to use, and some people really frown upon it. But
I think in the performing world, we do kind of feel a bit, networking. I don't want to kiss somebody's ass to get something. Yeah. It's not about that. It's about having just a nice chat.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you want to learn something from the person that you're talking to, but most people like talking about themselves. So if you invite them for a coffee, just be like, can I have 20 minutes? I'll get you a coffee. I'm just thinking about doing this. I know that you're doing it. It would be great to hear some advice from you. And most people, more than often than not, will go, what's 20 minutes on my lunch break? Fine, I'll have a chat.
We've offered that up to people as well. I've had some friends do it. Travis Currie at the moment, he's just released Swipes, and we've had a couple of coffees, and I've guided him in scenarios. He's doing really well. And that stuff, I think Stephen Bartlett's just picked it up on a pitch thing with him. And it's amazing to see people doing more and just reaching out. Just reach out and ask the question.
We're going to get loads of requests
DMs now
for coffees, aren't we?
We don't look after the social media account.
I think everything you've just said as well falls under the umbrella of you have control and autonomy over your own life. Yeah. I think as performers, we get so used to having the keys to our own lives in the hands of other people, casting directors, whoever that may be. And I think we can get so used to it, we can believe it's true.
Yeah.
I've got 2 more things I just really want to say off the back of that.
Go for it.
So we just sponsored the Casting Directors Guild Awards. Obviously, as actors, we wouldn't have allowed to be in that room.
Yeah.
I was in the room of people that make everyone's dreams come true.
Yeah.
And I sat there being a little bit, not bitter, but I was just a bit like, you guys are like revered here. And it's wild because every single one of you is just blagging. Every single person in this world is blagging to get to where they are. And the more you can say that, the more it sort of just goes, everyone's a normal person. They just have a couple of stats behind them. But at the end of the day, they go home and they have a shit. Everyone is the same person. They're just trying to make something happen.
Yeah.
And yes, they might have, or you might think they have the keys, but they don't. If you go and introduce yourself or go and take them for a coffee or there is a way of taking casting directors for dinner, I'm telling you.
Yeah,
to invite them to a fancy dinner or something. Yes, that's expensive. That's the way you get in there.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's easy to say now, like I say, we're on the other side of it. I wish I could tell myself this stuff back then. Otherwise, I'd have been banging on doors a little bit more.
Yeah.
My other thing I wanted to say is we're in a society, especially in the UK, where people don't quite want to champion you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your closest friends. They will judge you and go, why are you doing that? I've got
friends that still don't use ACT. I'm
Yeah.
like, are you having me on?
Yeah. Well, we've got, it takes us back to the time when it first blew up. We had people rummaging around in their bags, finding the samples that we'd gave them months before to just do a post, to feel involved. And I was like, I know full well you didn't try that or care at the time. And it's like, because you're doing the weird non-linear route does not mean it's wrong.
Yeah.
And just because you don't have the support of others, listen to yourself. God, I sound like Mel Robbins. Do I need to write a book?
I think you do.
I think I'm going to use a fine example here, and I don't think she'll mind me saying it, and that's Emily Tierney, actress extraordinaire, played Galinda. She was in The Wizard of Oz and Palladium. She has built herself the most incredible Instagram account as a fully fledged influencer, getting paid the most amazing deals, making the most incredible content. But what she's done is that level of content for the last 5-6 years. And I remember watching her doing it, and she was getting 10, 12 likes, and it would be constant. She'd be doing it with 3,000-4,000 followers, still a bigger number, maybe even less than that. And I had people saying to me, what is she doing? And I go, why are you judging her?
Yeah.
She looks amazing. It's amazing. And I'm listening to what she's saying. I don't need X, Y, and Z for my hair or whatever, but she might say the odd moisturizer that I go, oh, I'm definitely going to go and buy that. And they're like, she stuck at it. She didn't, I don't know whether she heard people saying this stuff, but I did. And people that are supposed to be her friends were saying this stuff. And I was like, just let her fucking do it. Now look at her. I think today she's on some Ritz-Carlton yacht with her husband doing some paid partnership with a brand. And you're like, fucking good for you.
Yeah.
More of that. Just stick to your own guns. And I think that's the difference between the Americans that we've been meeting lately, that people just get up and doing it and are supported by everyone around them. Here, everyone is a bit more judgmental.
We're much more skeptical of success here.
Skeptical is the word.
Yeah. Don't know why.
Why? Stop it. Just stop it. Please, everyone, stop being skeptical. Stop judging.
Well, exactly as you said, if people want to be skeptical, that's cool. It's nothing to do with you. You have the keys to your own life.
Yeah. It's really hard not to take it on board.
It is.
When someone says to you, why the fuck are you doing that?
Yeah.
You're going to go home and go, why the fuck am I doing that?
Yeah, yeah.
Instead, just go, because I've got a vision and I'm hoping it gets to this point. We could not have told you 5 years ago we'd be at this point with the revenue we're doing and the people we're meeting. If you'd have told us this was going to happen, we'd have laughed. But we just, something in us kept us going.
Yeah, yeah. We are coming towards the end.
I know, we could talk for
today's
hours.
podcast. Honestly, I think there's going to be so many people out there inspired by you guys, and maybe at least one of our viewers and listeners might change their lives because of today's conversation, and that's why we have them, and that's a beautiful thing
I hope so.
To think about. Ed and Andy, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening. We really appreciate it. You don't have to, but if you fancied it, give us a follow. Lots of love, and we'll see you on the next one.